So you undoubtedly know that this is the Arturia MicroFreak. It's an inexpensive digital synthesizer, and it packs a fair amount of functionality. I first came across it when I was at Synth Reactor in Germany, and the Arturia booth was there, and Brian from Arturia was like, "Mark, you got to play this thing." And I'm like, okay, I'm the vintage analog guy, and there are all these vintage analog synths just sitting around here, and everyone's sitting at the Arturia booth playing this thing. And I'm like, really? And he's like, no, sit down and play it. And I sat down and I played it, and I played something that sounded a little bit like this. Okay, I love analog synths, but come on. I need that sort of ethereal, digital sounding, rich churning sounds like that I can't really get on the synthesizers that I have. And so I'm like, you know what, this sounds really cool. And so I demonstrated this synthesizer, and I really liked it. And I had to say, like, these sounds are so cool on here that, like, for me, it was like, I've got to keep this thing around in case I need sounds like that. So I have. It's one of my favorites to just whip out and play. In fact, it wasn't like a year ago, I decided I was going to write music on a train. I had this big long train ride, so I brought this on, and I had an interface for my computer. And I sat down and I started recording songs, and I was like, okay, these are cool, but there's a character to this. And it's not always easy to get a really big or thick or broad or fat sound out of a digital synth like this one. And I found myself wishing I could. Also, drums. I suck at programming drums, and I was not happy with any of the drums that I programmed on here. They lacked the punch that I really, really wanted. So, anyway, I love this thing. But I recently got a notification from Arturia, like basically an announcement that they were about to release this firmware update that would make the MicroFreak use samples. And I'm like, how? Come on, really? Oh my God. And I imagined, I don't know, a Casio SK1 or something. And I was like, this is never going to work. And where's the memory in here? I still don't know that. I mean, did they just pack this thing with memory in advance? Anyway, I don't know. So I downloaded this thing and I thought, am I going to make a video about a digital firmware update for a digital synth? That's not a thing I've ever done. It's not a thing I would do. But I went through with the download, and it was super easy. And once I got the upgrade in here and started loading sounds into it, I realized, like, it's the only thing this little synth was missing for me was the ability to put whatever sound I want into it. Now, granted, the samples aren't super fancy. They're not layers, there aren't zones. But even so, I can't believe how great just these little snippets that I took from music of mine and threw on here, how useful they are and how they broaden the timbral palette of this synth. It is fantastic, and here I'll demonstrate it for you. Okay, so here is my newly improved MicroFreak. And I mean, okay, let me start off with something ridiculous, like, what about... the Arturia MicroFreak. Now that may sound like me talking, but it's a sample.
The Arturia MicroFreak.
The Arturia
MicroFreak.
The Arturia MicroFreak.
I mean, it sounds great, and these samples aren't small either, so it's super cool that they're in here. It was really easy to transfer them. I just used normal AIFF audio files and just dragged them into the Arturia program, and pow, they're here. I don't know. I don't understand how big the sample memory must be in here. I'm not used to dealing with things that have infinite sample memory, so these samples seem amazing for this thing that I didn't even know had sample memory in it. Automatic gainsay. Like, for example, when I was, talking about like recording music with this, and I really just wanted, like drums. Like I can't really program drums well, and the drums I programmed on here were not awesome, not because of it, but because of me. But I mean, really, what I like are real drums like this. So it's really exciting for me that I could like take a couple of measures of drums and throw it on here, and then I can use this when I'm recording or trying to come up with something. And it's really cool that this is on here. I never thought of this thing as a sample possessing instrument. I thought of it as a really narrow, sort of cool little digital thing. But now I can have big, huge sounds. I mean, that's real distorted electric guitar. And I mean, I basically just went through a bunch of my songs and pulled out little bits, and I'm like, I would love to hear this in a, coming out of this tiny little digital synth. And but they're really useful sounds that I could. This one just freaks me out. I mean, I can't even believe this. That's me playing an acoustic guitar. So it's like I can even, I don't need to go through everything and say, listen, this is what it would sound like if you used this. But I'm just excited about these samples and that they exist within this context. Anyway, so yeah, I've got all kinds of samples on here. And it's really, I mean, there are also the samples. I'm sure someone's going to do a video about what samples were included by Arturia. But yeah, I've got my own samples on here. And a lot of the samples that are from Arturia are really nice. But like... That's actually me. So I've got my own voice on here. But okay, so in addition to all of this, like we have the ability to, where's the vocoder? I keep interrupting myself by diving in this. So you've got the samples, they're in here, and all of these are just examples of samples. Like I don't even have to do anything to them. They all just sound great coming out of here. But we have the ability, not obviously, we have the ability to affect like the start and the end. And of course, loop. And you can, of course, adjust the loop. Finding loop points is not particularly easy when you just have these single shot samples and you don't have a lot of ability to work through them. But that being said, I've been able to find some decent loops that have made them worthwhile. And again, we're just on a MicroFreak. So like if you're looking for a sampler, get a sampler. But you can make definitely usable samples here just in this simple interface. It's absolutely beautiful. And we haven't even really dealt with some of the other functionality. So, let's go back to the vocoder. Because if we go up to, what was the one? Scan grains would be fun with the voice. So, automatic gainsay. Automatic gainsay. Automatic gainsay. So there's this function called scan grains that allows you basically to do not pitch manipulation, but time manipulation. Automatic gains. Automatic gains. Automatic. So that's pretty fun. There's another one. We could do the vocoder sound for this other one. That would sound cool. The vocoded and the cloud grains sounds really nice. Should sound nice. Okay, so we'll get the vocoded sound. And then we'll go to cloud grains. Let's see, the hit grains apparently is better with rhythmic sounds, so we'll go find a rhythmic sound. Let's see. So the band room loop, let's use this one. So let's go back and let's make this a loop. Oh, and it almost makes it as a, it's almost rhythmically right. I did not tailor this so it was rhythmically right, but it at least gives an impression that it's close. So then let's just save that. Okay, and then let's go over to this hit thing. And then I want to move through this. So let's go into the patch panel and go to LFO, go to wave and turn it all the way up. And then let's go to the wave. Oh, it instantly creates a rhythm. Interesting. Let's, I think the really fun one. Oh. I guess. Anyway, this is really weird and interesting. The LFO tempo becomes sort of the tempo of the beat as the sample and hold that I have set it to is moving through the various parts of the sample and playing the different things that exist at those values. So yeah, it's not just having cool samples on here. You can actually do some really cool manipulations, and you can voltage control them or whatever similar to voltage control thing that is happening with the patch panel. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't even mess with the filter. You can add the filter to any of the things you're doing, which can be really cool. And there are other functions you can add as well. It's really a very cool thing to be able to have this level of control over these samples that you can put in this thing that isn't even a sampler. I don't know. I know like there's a lot of digital technology I'm not aware of and not working with, but to me, this is so novel and so fun, and it sounds so great. I want to urge you to watch my Minimoog video where I basically took a bunch of samples of a Minimoog and put them in here and made some really fantastically great sounding Minimoog sounding sounds. So yeah, you basically, if you have a MicroFreak, you've got to get this upgrade, and then you'll have samples. Yeah, so that is the version 5 firmware upgrade for the Arturia MicroFreak.